Welcome everybody, SF Live episode number 53. My name is Kai Hoffman. I'm the CEO of the Soar Financial Group. Part 2 of our McLeod week. Yesterday we had Bruce McLeod on from Sabina Silver. Today we're going to be chatting with Rob McLeod, the CEO and president of Heatherdale Resources. And before we get started with Rob, real quick, just a quick reminder, you all know the drill by now. Please use hashtag AskHTR, that's the company's current ticker, for your questions for Rob. We'll get to those at the end of our quick chat here with Rob. Also, importantly, follow us on Twitter, follow us on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, Instagram, all the social media channels, and make sure you turn on the alert and subscription buttons. But now, it's my honor to welcome Mr. Rob McLeod. Rob, how are you doing today?
Hi, good morning. I'm great. Big shoes to fill with that wonderful interview with my eloquent cousin yesterday, but I'll do my best.
Oh, I'm sure you'll do fine. And you're actually the first one that I don't have to talk about COVID with. So, because you don't have any operations going, you've been working, but we don't have to specialize about like, oh, what kind of measures have you implemented, right? So this is a fresh white piece of paper we can start on. And you need to tell us all about Heatherdale. You recently joined as CEO of Heatherdale Resources. And the Niblack project is the main asset. So please tell us more. And I'm trying to find an angle just where we could start with one question. Like, how did you find Niblack? Let's start there.
Sure. Well, I've worked a lot in Alaska, and as you and probably most of the viewers know, I'm from Stewart, British Columbia. So we're right on the border with Hyder, Alaska. You just go across the border past Ketchikan to Prince of Wales Island, and that's where the past-producing Niblack mine is located. And I actually toured the property during my first year working for LAT Minerals when I was working at the Red Mountain Project. So you and many others know my last company was IDM Mining. So it's interesting that here I'm picking up another old LAC project. But I know the Bob Dickinson, of course, of HDI quite well. We sit together on the board of directors for the Britannia Museum, Mine Museum, and just after the transaction with Ascot finished, we actually, started talking about, what I'm going to be doing next. And there was a vision that myself and a few of the ex-IDM colleagues were working on, and Bob started to pitch me a little bit on, well, hey, you should, we're looking at what we can do with Heatherdale and Niblack. So I was like, you know what? It's been a long. I followed it when Heatherdale had it, and Abacus Resources and Niblack Mining were exploring it. Over 15 years ago, I was following it with some interest. But when I saw that it was available, I thought it'd be worth going under CA and taking a closer look. And that was last July, and it took almost 9 months, but here we are.
Is there any specific characteristic that attracted you to Niblack? Is it the geology? Is there like the past history? Like anything that jumped out as like, okay, I got to get this project?
Well, I've taken, after you finish kind of one company or one stage of your career, you reflect on everything you've learned and what went well and what you might do differently. And to me, Niblack really checked a lot of the boxes. Like, I love grade. There's no substitute for high grade mineralization and underground and bulk mineable, and also, hey, one of the after IDM, one of the things I really learned is you can never stop exploring. You can never stop adding value by demonstrating the upside and the growth potential for these deposits. And when Heatherdale was formed as an HDI company, they really pushed the development side of the project. And after Red Mountain, we've got a lot of that sort of stuff down, the engineering and the permitting end. But they didn't really do a lot on the exploration side, but they did a lot on the geological side. They there was a really well done master's thesis, an excellent technical compilation by a BC geologist named Dr. Jim Oliver. And the work that both of them did, which is really interesting, like VMS deposits are kind of like layer cake systems. And what they concluded is actually the cake has been turned upside down, and you're dealing with an overturned deposit, which completely changes how you would explore it. And so reviewing Jim's really good work, and it's been folded around, actually folded twice, similar to the famous Flin Flon belt in Manitoba and Saskatchewan. And you can see, man, there is absolutely no shortage of targets, including really big ones, like the potential, say, to double the size of the system. That's what really interested us, right? So it's that exploration side. Ticked all the boxes on the ability to mine it. That this thing does have an economic chance. It's located on tidewater, and it's in a great jurisdiction if you do things right on the ESG side, of course. And
we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
So, right, we could talk about that for a long time, but I wanted to, like, as I mentioned, I want to structure our conversation in like three pieces, like the art of the deal, the vision, and the game plan, right? And the art of the deal also includes a bit of the history of the project, and why has it been dormant in HDI for so long? Why hasn't Heatherdale done anything with it?
So, HDI is a management group with a series of companies like Northern Dynasty and Taseko and quite a bit others. And, they're a group that over the past 30, 40 years have added tremendous value in mining and mineral exploration. And when things really took a downturn in 2012, 2013, they kind of went to a care and maintenance side of it. There was a bit of attrition within HDI, so they focused on a few other companies, but they still kept the project going. They kept there's like a full-size production size ramp and a camp, and they kept everything well maintained. There's a water treatment facility there for any water that would come out from underground, and they just kept on accruing all these different costs. And in terms of to be honest, to get in and get positioned or starting the new company, like originally we're going to do an IPO, but we saw that they had over $4 million worth of related party debt. And so one way for insiders to get positioned, and of course this is subject to a multi-year escrow, is that we had made a proposal to buy that debt for a percentage discount, and then convert that into shares. And that's the way for myself and some of the technical team and team that will be joining the company, and some of my close investor colleagues to get positioned. So that was a really, really key part of the transaction for us.
Yeah. So tell us more about the structure of Heatherdale, like because you came in as CEO. Unfortunately, it has been announced that you came in as president, but you're also president of the company as well. Right?
That's correct.
It's a small exploration company. For me, it's potatoes. It doesn't really matter. But
so there was last fall. There was a shareholder vote for a 5-for-1 rollback, which took shares outstanding to about 36 million. And then, as part of the debt settlement, we acquired 40 million shares within the company, bringing us to, or a little less actually. So that brings us to about 74 million shares that are issued and outstanding. We are considering, full forward-looking disclosure here, we might do one more restructure here, and that's to really tighten things up. And certainly from IDM, one of the biggest lessons is that we learned is to maintain that share structure, maintain your issued and outstanding low. It's our preferred intent not to finance. I don't want to finance if I can with warrants ever again. To me, they just cap your share price.
You don't want to finance at 5 cents again, like you had to as well, right? Or 5-6 cents.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's hard to get institutions in. And we actually you're going to be on a call with them with AME a little bit later. But Kevin Carter, year and a half ago, did a really great presentation for the IDM board of directors, which was at the time we were contemplating a rollback. And he looked at 18 different rollbacks over the previous couple of years, and there's no pattern. So if you do a rollback or reverse split, just makes that share count lower, share price higher, and the total market cap's the same. But you got a lot more to work with in terms of, certainly some of the different regs that particularly U.S. or foreign institutions might have. And it's our intent to really turn Heatherdale into an institutional story. And additionally, also full disclosure, we're going to do, full rebrand, name change, and really market the company in a new way.
Oh, you're taking some of the game plan away. So, so Heatherdale, talk about the vision for it now moving forward. So you got the asset now, or not the asset, but you're part of the company. You're restructuring it, and the vision moving forward. How do you see Heatherdale developing? And let's talk about game plan in a second, like the concrete actions. That's the game plan. But what's the vision for the company moving forward?
So the vision is to, and certainly at the start, and some of the global issues that we see today, but also even pre-COVID, the movement, particularly maybe mining industry, is a little bit slow to really prioritize ESG components and engagement and inclusiveness of Indigenous groups, other minority groups, and with environment and social aspects as being one of the highest priority. And I really want Heatherdale to lead by example on that. I might flip back and forth just as a side note to Black Wolf Copper and Gold. That's what the name should be being changed to in the future. So having that component, and this will really, we hope over the next couple of years, we do have our eye on other corporate development opportunities, which could include an Indigenous ownership component to the company. Nothing is confirmed on that, but I think if we can set that as an example for public companies going forward, where Indigenous groups don't just review your permits and work as laborers in the companies, that they can be owners as well too, and really help build up that capacity. So that's one really important part of the vision. But the other part, add shareholder value by advancing these projects to a production decision, period. And that's where exploring them, getting as big as possible, engineering, make sure you got really good work, and continue this economic studies, or our investors will be able to provide good value, and to advance along the permitting timeline. Build these things, probably leave it up to somebody else, but most investors will want to see the add as much value as you can, and then look at bringing developers. But you want to really get things set up all on a platter, and get projects as de-risked as much as possible.
Okay.
And never stop exploring.
De-risking is perfect segue into game plan. How are you planning to do that? What's the plan moving forward, de-risking Niblack and your operations going forward?
Sure. So in terms of Niblack, we want to see how big it is. We want to test. There's like almost a 20-meter intersection, a little over 19 meters, that ran over 6% copper and 1.5 grams of gold and 4% zinc. It's called the Dama Zone, and it's sitting about 1 kilometer away from the main resource area. The previous operators had a bit of a challenge following up in the drilling in this sort of area because of what was called the roadless Alaska rule. And it made it even challenging to cut drill pads. This was something that Clinton brought in the 90s, and the current federal administration, with support from the state of Alaska, have rescinded. So, but first we want to do, there's really good geoscience work that's been done, but there's been no geophysics, particularly IP should work well with such copper-rich massive sulfides. We're going to really refine these drill targets, great numbers in surface and soil samples along strike, we want to see how big this can be. The past producing Niblack mine, which has received only a few drill holes, it's right next to the camp. Well, it's going to be the highest priority areas for us to drill. A bit more of a zinc-rich system, but again, the HDI's geologists really, put this on the tee for us to test a bunch of these great exploration targets. But before we do that, the one key component, we will need to finance this company, and we want to certainly do it in a way that will be able to build for the future and really place some good quality new investors into the company right at the start.
Yeah. Before we come back to the financing part, I want to really talk about that as well. But I got a more technical question first. You said there's more zinc component in the Niblack area. Do you have some historical metallurgical results that sort of give you an idea?
Oh yeah, and so Niblack actually was a historic producing mine about 100 years ago, and in that era, they just focused on the copper. It was like 4 to 6% historic copper grades. There's a lot of zinc there, but the flotation technology wasn't quite there yet. It was just starting to emerge to maximize recoveries for zinc. The ore body has sort of been folded on itself there, so we want to look for an additional fold or down plunge target where it might be really nice and thick. Some visuals would really help on it, but it's a great, easy to drill. One of the first targets we'll test on the property. But metallurgy is nice, of course.
How deep will you have to drill?
150 meters will be the shallowest, but we'll probably try and get build some size to it. Maybe get down 300 meters or so on that Niblack target. And again, for the viewers, and we are going to be doing a full refresh on the website, of course, but you should be able to see some figures and maps there that will show the location of these zones. The metallurgical work that was done, there was a great first pass metallurgical pass. A lot of this actually wasn't disclosed to investors, so I'm actually kind of so should treat it as historical in nature, but high 90% recoveries for zinc and copper. The precious metals were a bit less than that, but none of this was optimized. So we look as part of the use of proceeds from the first financing to really give investors some good metallurgical numbers that they can wrap their heads around. But since it's been metamorphosed, which means that the rock's been folded and really cooked up, you can see the real nice coarse grain nature of the sulfides. And that's what you want to see for base metal deposits to really maximize recovery. So that was one of the real pluses that we saw on this project.
Fantastic. Let's talk about game plan. Okay, moving forward, what are the next steps? You mentioned renaming, restructuring. So you're taking this whole thing out of the HDI realm, I'm assuming?
Yeah. Now we will be pulling it out of HDI, and this is they've been absolutely great to deal with, but they've got some of their other priorities. They will continue to hopefully be shareholders. And we'll be coming back to them, I'm sure, with lots and lots of questions. But I will be building a new team here. The AGM will be coming up this summer, and we'll likely be bringing in some directors, new directors, and really do kind of a full rebrand on the company.
As of this rainy Sunday or whatever it was, it's actually summer. So you have more of a concrete date for us, and what do you plan to approve at the AGM? Like also a name change, right? You mentioned Black Wolf Copper and Gold.
Yeah. We don't need to. That doesn't need to be approved at the AGM, but it's we intend on really marketing this company effectively, and we'll have a good new branding for it. And as part of our longer term vision, as I mentioned, we are looking at other corporate development opportunities which could become in the near term. and names and brands that might be more reflective of the overall vision of the company as it really gets concrete over the rest of 2020.
Let's switch over to Twitter. You can't unfortunately see the questions, but I know you're super active on Twitter, so I'm sure you've seen some of them already. And we got one question, and you sort of hinted at it. Like it points towards the vision, since most of the homepage data is a little bit outdated, and he put that in air brackets, right? Like and was it air calls? What are they called? The air
quotes.
Air quotes, yeah. Right? So I assume we will get a huge update regarding project management, drilling, financing, and more. So what's your long-term focus that you want to build the mine?
So the what you need to do when you have advanced projects is the intent. What adds the most value is typically selling these companies, but to really be effective in selling them, you have to keep on going down that production path. You have to do all of that de-risking. It's the same path, right? And then eventually it'll reach a certain stage where certain buyers might say, hey, we can offer a premium for this. This will be a good value for the shareholders. So you have to do whatever it takes to get that production decision. So, it's a bit of a wishy-washy answer for the question, but it's the same path, whether we build it ourselves or somebody else does. It's whatever is going to be the most value for the shareholder. And that's generally project sale or company sale.
Okay, give me 1 second. I just need to change my audio setting. I hear my microphone is cutting in and out. That seems to be a software issue. So now you can hear me again, Rob.
Yeah, now I got you, man.
I have to change the software real quick because it seems to be cutting in and out. So we got a couple more questions on Twitter. Let's get back to that. And Bernie Kraft is asking, current estimates for the Lookout and Trio deposits total about 9 million tons, which is a bit small. Of the 4 other known VMS deposits, Mammoth, Dama, you mentioned that one before, Lindsay, and Niblack, with no reported estimates, where do you see most upside and why?
So in terms of what I think is the lowest risk to significantly add tonnage, it's actually down dip from the largest resource, which is the Lookout deposit. It's a little over a meter thick intercept, but really high grade zinc and copper that was drilled from an underground hole that basically was the catalyst for this new geological interpretation. Originally, they thought the zone was cut off by a fault, but then right down dip where the zone should be, there's a hit. Now, massive sulfides can often follow these troughs, and there's really good correlations here at Niblack, where you get the thickest sections of felsic volcanics or rhyolite breccias. That's typically where you get the thickest massive sulfide. It's almost up to 100 meters wide in places here. Like, the guts of the Lookout deposit is just spectacular. So we think down dip will have the best potential. But to really find some game changers, I want to chase that 6% copper with really good numbers in soils that are further off to the east along this 5 kilometer long unexplored trend. I really defer to some of the other geologists, particularly Dr. Jim Oliver, who did, and a lot of the geos that might be watching know this guy by reputation. He's a phenomenal explorer at integrating lithology, structure, geochemistry, but particularly with an exploration goal in mind. I know he likes this target that's way further off to the west that looks like it's kind of a re-emergent structurally of this host felsic horizon that hosts the massive sulfides. And, if you look at other VMS belts along the coast, this is older, it's a pre-Cambrian age system. But if you have Greens Creek or Myra Falls, Greens Creek started with 3 million tons and now they're like over 30 plus, probably on their way to 50. Similarly to Myra, you keep following these horizons and you get these massive sulfide plugs all the way along.
Okay. Another question we're getting from Jeremy is, with the project dormant basically on care and maintenance, are there any permit hurdles with the state to get back with the drill program?
The permits have been, and HDI has done a really good job at that. They've got permits in place. So there's over 1,000 meter long full-size production exploration ramp on the property. You just restart that permit, and like next week we could be drilling there. There's also patented federal claims where we'll drill right away. Further off along, and this is on federal land, there'll be a several month permitting process to get some drill pads out on that side.
Okay.
So the land tenure has 3 different types out there: federal, state, and private, and so it depends on the land status. But permitting is not a prohibitive issue to continue exploring here.
Okay, perfect. Let's wrap up with a question by Jeb Handwerger, and he's asking, what are the next steps, and when do you think investors will see the drilling at Niblack, and what are conditions of the adit? And then the question for that is, or the reason for that question is, can we drill deep targets this season from underground?
Oh yeah, so the adit's in like phenomenal shape. This is a over 4 by over 5 meter ramp. Once you get ventilation in there and turn the pumps on, you're ready to go. Now, one of the plans we're contemplating is to break into the hanging wall to this dipping ore body. We might extend that ramp, not by much, just 125, 150 meters or so, so we can drill it at the best possible angle. It'll probably end up being kind of a cost-benefit analysis, whether or not we drill that down dip extension to the lookout first. But once we get cashed up here this summer, we'll be drilling. There's what's cool aspect about the project. There's a floating camp on a barge that was purchased by previous operators. It was actually used during the Exxon Valdez cleanup back in the 80s. So exploration here should be really low cost.
Fantastic. I think that's a perfect way to wrap it up. So, like you mentioned, all the points moving forward. Like usually we let our guests recap or give an outlook for the next news flow for the next 3 months. But I think it's really easy to summarize this. AGM with a bunch of approvals, raise money, start drilling.
Exactly. Yeah, and then executing on the vision. So we're really enthused about this. I've worked a lot in Alaska in my career, so it's great being back up in the Great Land, and we really look forward to adding value for Heatherdale shareholders.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and direct message me on Twitter anytime at Goldfinder12.
Oh, I wish we had time to go into your username because I want to know where the 12 comes from. But that's a story for another day, I guess. Rob, thanks for joining us this morning. Really appreciate you giving us an update on Heatherdale. It's an early stage story, meaning like it's not an early stage asset, but it's a new company trying something that has been working on something that has been working in the past. It's been a mine. So good luck with that. And we'll stay in touch. And I forgot to mention at the beginning, I am a shareholder of Heatherdale already. So everything I said today, please take that with a grain of salt. I will be participating in the depth conversion. Rob kindly invited me. Full disclaimer out there. I've got nothing to hide. I just want to make sure that's out there. And yeah, everybody else, thanks for your questions. It's been really interactive. Please make sure to follow Heatherdale. I noticed the presentation is not up on the website yet, so there's still a bit of work to do, Rob. But it's coming together. Give the company a little bit of time with some more information coming out. But as he said, Rob is widely available. Send him a message, WhatsApp him. No, you don't have WhatsApp. Well, we never communicate on WhatsApp for some reason. But reach out to him on Twitter. Follow us on YouTube. Thank you so much. And we'll talk soon.